Welcome to Wealth and Wellness with Grace Nabasabla.
Welcome to Wealth and Wellness with Grace. Today I have a topic for you which will be a special interest, specifically because it attains your end of life decisions. What am I talking about? A living will. Do you have one? And if you do, what does it actually stipulate in your own living will? Stick around to the very end because I mentioned the what, the how, the who, the where, and also the how of a living will. First is what? What is a living will? I'm glad you asked. This is a legal document you put down detailing everything you want, your desires, as well as your end of life decisions. In healthcare, we have a durable power of attorney for healthcare. I don't know if you've heard of that. These documents also help you not put strain on your own family members, your loved ones, especially in the most vulnerable times. So make sure that if you don't have one, you consider completing one today, as soon as you finish this episode. So as soon as you become 18, and even if you're not 18 yet, you can talk to your parents about your desires and wishes. It's never too late. Your concerns are valid. Let them know what you prefer done to you and how you prefer to be treated. The where is important because you can either type it or you can handwrite it. I literally handwrote mine. You see, I'm handwriting it, right? I'm in the process of handwriting mine. And I'll share this more when we get to the how. But I already have the last will and testament, because you have to make sure you put that. You have to put your name. You have to put a date, because this is important, because whatever will you have, the current date supersedes the previous dates. And also you have to make sure it's signed. If it's not signed, it's not valid. In most states, it's better to actually also have witnesses, at least 2 witnesses. And these witnesses cannot be family members. The why is so important. Why should you have one? And then for those who don't have one, why don't they have one? So let me start with the why you should. We should have one because you're protecting your own personal interests. What I like is not going to be the same thing with what you might like, right? Because we are different. And also what your family members might like might be different. You see, because I mentioned in the past to a family member that I prefer to be cremated. To my surprise, the family member I talked about, they oppose my decision, right? But that's my decision. I've always felt like it's a waste of space to just put it's waste of money. Okay, first of all, if you don't know me by now, just know I don't like to waste money. And then I don't like to waste people's time. You see, all that is waste of time and space and money. No. We can save that money doing something with it. So my preference is cremation. So don't judge me. Whoever is watching this, it's up to what your preferences are. But I'm going to make sure that my will stipulates that, because I stand by it. I've seen a lot of people coming from Africa transport the body back to Africa. What do they need to see the body for? Anyway, let's not get off topic. But seriously, for miracle nature, if they want some of these ashes, they can ship those ashes, right? And it's going to cost much less. Okay. Next is the other thing is also protecting your family members, right? Because if you make your wishes known, I'm not stressing my family members to figure out what would Grace like, because I've always been different. So I make my wishes known, and they might not like it, but they're going to respect those wishes. And that takes away from them overthinking, stressing them out, frustrating them, causing fights. You see, which is also another point. It's that thing, the conflict within family members. Because if you know this is what you want and they follow it, then where are the conflicts? All minimal, right? Especially during the most vulnerable time of your life. So instead of leaving it to them, I'll make sure that I have mine whereby I minimize those conflicts. And the other thing is also preserving your wealth. If you don't have a will, most of that money goes into litigation, going through a probate, right? Probate court, attorney fees, all those channels to make sure that they are allocating those resources in a proper way. However, if you have a will, you do away with that because you have a will and you preserve most of those resources. And not just that, having a will also helps, especially when you have kids, right? When you have children, you stipulate exactly what you want done to those kids, who you want to assist those kids when you're not here. Also, how you want those finances to be handled. Because there's one thing I know about wealth. I'm learning, y'all. So, but one thing I know about wealth, if you don't manage it, it will go to the hands of those people who end up managing it. So if you leave your wealth to your offsprings who inherit that wealth, and if they're not financially literate, that wealth will just end up in the hands of other people who can manage that money. Therefore, make sure that the people you're passing on your wealth to have an idea about what keeping finances is, managing finances, right? Because you work so hard for your money. And I hope you stand to keep it, even when you're not here. And that's what your will can do for you. So let's talk about why most people don't have one. Statistics show that 67% of Americans don't have a will. That's 1 in 4 people. And especially minorities. I thought this statistic was really alarming, especially minorities. And specifically in Black communities, one study showed that it was 70% of people in the Black community, minorities, who don't have a will. And I can tell you, it's a few reasons, and I myself have been found guilty of these reasons, right? So let's talk about the first one. It's fear. Most of us think we are immortal. Nothing's going to happen to us. We are here to stay. I hate to break it to you. None of us are immortal. Our time will come and we won't be here forever, right? So, and it's okay if you're here forever. It's always good to have a plan, right? So having a will is literally you having a plan for your life. Another thing is sometimes we are very unsure about this process. It's confusing. We're talking about life and death decisions. This can be really overwhelming. So the uncertainty of it all can cause a lot of frustration, can cause a lot of fear, can cause a lot of paranoia. And that's why it brings us to the third thing, which is procrastination. I've been found guilty of that. I've studied almost 5 wills now. I studied 1 in college when I learned about wills. I studied several over the course of these years, and I still didn't finish. But your girl is going to write one today, right? And I'm going to show you. I'm going to do one online, and I'm going to do one literally on the piece of paper. Because in Louisiana, it's actually legal. I don't even need a witness. I didn't know this, you see? I thought all the wills you have to write always needed witnesses. But no. In 25 states, you don't need a witness. But of course, I prefer to have a witness just in case somebody forges my handwriting and, you see, and signature. So I'll make sure I have at least 2 witnesses and also notarize it. because then I'll feel safe and better to have that in writing. And also other people also held accountable to my will. The other thing is the price. Most times we think it costs a lot of money, right? And most times we really think that having a will, having your estate plan is for the wealthy, so-called wealthy. That's not true. Like I mentioned, your life is your wealth. That's the most precious thing that you own. So why not protect it? So having that will, really you protecting your life. And you don't have to have a lot of wealth. You don't even have to have anything. But you protecting your life is everything. So ignorance is no bliss. Go on the internet, reach out, you see, go talk to somebody, your attorney, your estate planning attorney, and anybody who can help you if you need information about how to formulate your will. That these are basic information that you can use, and it's not going to be set in stone. You can always revise this as you go, right? But you're not doing it is no excuse. The who, I already talked about the who. You personally need to do it. Don't wait on anybody to do it for you. Be accountable for your life. Last but not least is the how. This is really big. How do you get to do this? It's simple. A few simple steps. I already showed you. You can do one piece of paper, right? But also what is on that piece of paper matters. Making sure gather information, have information about the executor of your estate. Do you have somebody to trust? I know a few trusted individuals that I know for sure will not jeopardize my will and will respect my wishes. So you have to have a few trusted people that you consider to put on your as your executors. And also the guardians for your kids. If you can have minors who are under 18, one of the parents can become their guardian. What if that parent is not here anymore? That leaves the burden on you to find another guardian. So I have two guardians, including their dad, who can also assist in case he's no longer here. So that's always good to have those individuals already in place. And make sure the guardian actually can be a family member. However, the executor cannot be a family member. So make sure you have enough people so that it's not the same people. It helps with accountability too. And also think about who will be your beneficiaries. This is one of the biggest things. And also this is the area where most people have a lot of conflict. Beneficiaries. Life is crazy. And so many times during death, right, end of life, that's when you see all these people popping up from nowhere. I've seen it. So make sure that you have your beneficiaries highlighted. Oh, this is a funny personal story. Not funny, but it's really sad. My grandfather passed away a long time ago. I don't even remember. I was a kid. But if I tell you, it was just, it was really sad to see my aunts, my uncles, everybody trying to inherit something. He had a will. This was a smart man. He wasn't even educated. Can you imagine? But he had a will. He had several assets. And he made sure whoever he wanted to inherit those assets was in that will. And also you have to consider if you have children, you cannot just be vague and put as such and such will inherit my whole estate. You have to stipulate exactly what that particular child will inherit. Because if you miss son and kids and say such and such, you don't even mention them, those other kids have grounds of coming back and fighting that will in court. You see? Because you can literally put such and such child will not inherit anything from my estate or inherit zero, but you have to list those kids as well. But I'm not here to tell you what you need to give and distribute to your kids. I feel like you know what's best for your own family. So as for me, I'll make sure that I do the right thing for all my family members and also myself. Yeah, for what it will serve us well. And the other thing is making sure you actually complete the will. You see, make sure it's done. And also make sure that it's kept safely and securely. I don't know if you know Aretha Franklin, a famous musician. She passed a while back, and initially they did not have a will for her, right? And later on, come to find out they found a will in a couch. Can you imagine? Maybe one day she was tired, wrote her will, right? Pen and paper, put it in the couch, right? And that's how they found the will. But just imagine if they didn't find it. You see, another musician, Prince, died, and literally his estate has lost millions because of all these estate fees, because they don't have anything in writing from him. So you might not have children. You might not have anybody you consider might need anything from you, but just have your will and desires in writing. That will help you. Say, for example, if you're single. If you're single, your parents can help you or your siblings, because those will become the beneficiaries. And if you're married, your spouse and your children become, according to the state, of course, because every state is different. You have to consider your state laws and regulations. But in Louisiana, it's literally community state. So both partners, you see, stand to inherit from the other. And then if they pass, then the kids stand to inherit. But of course, it's easier if you have that will in writing. And last but not least, I talked about how to keep it safely. Make sure you're not the only person with a copy. You see? Because so many people can try to frame you or fraudulate you or whatever they try to do. So if you have 2 copies, maybe pass them on to the executor of your estate. That can help. And they can keep them safely. And make sure you let your attorney know, such that if anything happens to you, also maybe he can have a copy too. You see? Because you trust your attorney enough to help you formulate this will. Make sure that he can look over it. He might recommend different things. And he can keep a copy as well. But at least if you have more than one person with a copy, that will help you, such that if anything happens to you, you're covered. I hope you learned a thing or two out of this. I'm excited to finish my will. I'm getting all my information together. Do the same. And don't forget to subscribe below. See you soon.